Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Colony Drop, your favorite Gundam podcast. My name is Isaac.
And my name is Brian, and this is a podcast where we talk about anything and everything related to the Mobile Suit Gundam franchise. From the anime, to the movies, to the music, to the models, to the CG trilogy from the mid-2000s, Isaac, known as MS IGLOO.
That's right, Brian. And today we are going to be wrapping up our discussion on MS IGLOO because we're talking about the third and final episode series of MS IGLOO, Gravity Front.
Yeah, you know what's confusing to me, Isaac, is that the first MS IGLOO is called MS IGLOO, The Hidden One-Year War. The next one is MS IGLOO Apocalypse 0079. And then the third one is called MS IGLOO 2, The Gravity Front. Does that just, not throw off your OCD a little bit? Does it need the two?
I'll say half yes, because this is a completely different story with different characters. We didn't really get that with the initial story, and more to the point, this is actually a completely different perspective on the war because we're switching to Federation characters.
That's right. The first two trilogies followed the 603rd Technical Evaluation Unit of Zeon, or some mumbo jumbo like that. We kind of are ditching all of that for this third outing. So we're starting over from the Federation's point of view.
I walked into this blind, Brian. I had no idea what the story would be, what would actually be happening. I just had briefly heard that it'll be from the Federation side. Did you know anything walking into it?
I did a little bit because one of the listeners who brought this up warned me that the final outing was weird. And he mentioned that there was a Grim Reaper in it. And I was like, oh, that sounds strange. Maybe that's just someone's, nickname. You know how, Shard the Red Comet or Johnny Raiden, the Crimson Lightning. I was like, maybe this dude's just the Grim Reaper. No.
No.
A literal, metaphysical Grim Reaper.
Yeah. You did mention to me an Angel of Death kind of Grim Reaper thing shows up, and I thought to myself initially, okay, it's going to be like the skull and the hood and have like a scythe, right? And then, unfortunately, I was a bit short-sighted, and I forgot that this is created by a Japanese team. So naturally, they put in their version of what the death would look like.
It's like a Final Fantasy version of a Grim Reaper.
Absolutely. Sephiroth dyed his hair black and decided to visit the Universal Century. So it's pretty much that. And I was not too happy with the scenes where death shows up, but maybe we'll get into more detail with that as we talk about each episode.
Yeah, what are your thoughts as a whole, Isaac, on this?
Loved the first two MS IGLOOs. It was a very well done story. This, though, was very stumbling. I would describe it as a stumbling story because each episode we change characters, and also we don't see a lot of mobile suit combat being used by the protagonists in our story. They're Federation, but really only one shows mobile suit usage. Mm-hmm. So it was very much a Gundam side story with very little mobile suits. It was interesting, though, to see things from this perspective and to see a lot of the early parts of the war and how they did or didn't go well. Some of the middle parts also, but it was not as good. Not as good as the first MS IGLOO series with Zeon. And I'm not just saying that because I'm a Zeon fan. I'm just saying that because story-wise, action-wise, the development of the characters, it was done way better in the first two parts compared to this final part, Gravity Front.
Yeah, I think I would largely agree that the first two outings were probably superior to this. And it kind of just makes me wonder why they went this road. Maybe they were really just trying to do something different with the whole Death God, Angel of Death thing. Because to me, that really wasn't necessary. And it was just kind of in the way. I guess that was really the only character that we saw through all three episodes. Maybe the commander guy or the major guy, whatever his name is.
Yeah.
But he was really annoying. I didn't really like him.
No, he was pretty arrogant, and one of the, I think Lewis, one of the gunnery guys, they jokingly call him the Great General, right? Or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, but like you, I think every time that the Angel of Death popped up, I was like, really?
Yeah.
Well, kind of a bummer. Maybe some people really like it. I don't know. To me, I wasn't a huge fan of that. And then I don't know what your thought on this is. One thing I didn't like as much about this one is that I loved about the first two, and I didn't realize until watching this third one, is that like you said, only one of them really has mobile suit combat, and the third one that did have the mobile suit combat was the one that had the new unit, the new Guntank. And that's when I realized that every single new unit that was introduced in the first 2 MS IGLOOs, they were almost their own character. And we don't have that here in the first 2 episodes of this third outing, right? The first 2 episodes, we follow a infantry unit, and then we follow a tank unit. And the tank unit is literally not like the Hidalfer or the Guntank in the third episode here. It's like literally like the normal Type 61 tanks. So they're not quite as exciting, I think. So that was a little disappointing. But I still think the battles were pretty good. I thought they were well thought out, well choreographed. And I thought out of the 3 episodes in this outing, the one that felt the most similar to the previous 6 episodes was the final episode. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. That one actually had mobile suit on mobile suit combat. Yeah. On top of that, it had something pretty interesting, which was a female pilot. We don't see those every day. Yeah. So that was cool. They all had something interesting about them that I liked. Yeah. I'm not saying I hated this thing and, I can't believe I had to watch it. Well, it was a root canal. There's something I enjoyed about all of them. I think they're still fun to watch if you're a Gundam fan, just to sort of flesh things out. But overall, I would have much rather have gone back to see what was going on with Oliver May, what happened to Cadillac. That would have been a great wrap-up, seeing, a 3-part series about them after Bawaku. But instead, we decided to do a bit of a time jump or a time reversal flashback on in MS IGLOO, and we see the opening days of the Zeon invasion of Earth in Episode 1. In Episode 2, we see, I think, pretty close to the beginning of the war as well. And then 3 is about of the time of Odessa, or a little bit after Odessa, I think. Yeah,
that's right. All right, Isaac, let's take our Zeon landing capsule down into Episode 1.
Oh man, yeah. Episode 1 opens up with Zeon invading Earth. You get to see I think the Papuas, right, doing their little airdrop. They're dropping in all these drop pods, and I had no idea they were this maneuverable. Did you, Brian? We see one like almost land on Earth, and then it does like a spin-a-rooney.
I wrote down the same thing. I wrote, these pods seem pretty agile. Must have been made by the same people who made the Magellans and the Salamases. Oh,
we stole their thrusters. Like, those are really good thrusters. We should put those on our drop pads. So yes, our story Episode 1 opens with Zeon invading Earth. Caecilia's giving this really cool speech. I thought that would be something Garen would do, but wow, good for you, Caecilia. So we see them dropping in, and oh man, the Federation infantry's running for their lives. They're being shot at by Zeon infantry and Zaku's coming out of these drop pods. It's just a massacre, and I'm pretty sure this is all happening in Europe, as Zeon chose that as their first landing point.
Right, this is like early on. I think this is in March and April-ish time frame. So way before Federation is breaking out mobile suits here. If you think back to the original series, the Gundam didn't show up until, I believe, September. Still very, very early days. And I got to say, the Federation troops, not doing well. Not doing well, Isaac.
No, completely disorganized, just running for their lives and demoralized. And who's more demoralized than our main character, Barberry? He's the head of a platoon of an anti-mobile suit specialized unit, I think they're called. They have a very specialized weapon, a type of missile that's anti-mobile suit.
Yeah. It's called the Regina.
Yeah. And this poor guy, Barberry, he's down in the dumps because I think he said he lost his original unit. He lost all his men originally, and he thinks he's the god of death because when he's with his men, they inevitably die.
Yeah, this is very much like a Sanders situation from 8th MS team, right?
Yeah, but I mean, Sanders kind of keeping it together and keep going. But Barberry, the general he talks to, general arrogance, he had to really kind of hammer into him like, hey, you're the last anti-mobile suit platoon we have. We need you to, go on this mission to take out some of these Zakus. Oh, did you catch the name drop, Brian?
I did.
Oh, yeah. Matilda.
So not only was there the Lieutenant Matilda name drop,
yeah, Matilda Squad.
I thought that the major chose a really interesting word to tell him what to do. He said, all right, Barberry, go reconstitute your platoon. and help defend the battalion. And I was like, that's odd, because that was like right before you knew that basically everyone dies every time with this guy, and he's always the only one left. So that was pretty sad. But yeah, so that's his mission. He's gonna help defend something while the bigger forces get resupplied by our favorite resupply person from the original series, Lieutenant Matilda.
It was so cool hearing her name. She was such a good person. It's sad knowing what happens, but I was like, oh, okay, good. Like, even at this point in the war, they knew that, like, if you needed something, Matilda would guarantee you could get it.
Right.
But yeah, this is also, I think Barberry's sitting by the tree when he's thinking about death and, you know, how bad of the situation he's in, when he actually sees his first vision of death. Mm-hmm. And this is something that'll repeat through the next few episodes, but for some of the characters, they can actually see death. And death did not appear how I thought. Almost androgynous, but it has, I think they said it was male, but it actually has a female voice.
Oh, really? I always thought she was female, but interesting.
Yeah, maybe I heard that wrong or understood the situation wrong, but yeah, it sounds like a woman.
I mean, I guess angels are known for like an androgynous appearance sometimes, right?
Yeah, but I mean, it's death, right? Death can come for anybody, so maybe it needs to sound and look like anybody. But anyways, Barberry heads out with his unit, and to their credit, they sound a bit gung-ho.
Yeah. What a terrible assignment. How down in the dumps do you have to be to volunteer to do this job, Isaac? This is a terrible job.
I mean, I'm trying to think, like, the Federation probably had enough intel to know that, okay, we lost in space against mobile suits. Zeon's probably going to bring them to Earth when they inevitably come in a few weeks. Let's design these big, missiles that we're able to fire at mobile suits on the ground, and, maybe a few of them will land. They'll be cheap. We can pamper them out. They'll be ready to go in case of an invasion.
Yeah, but like, okay, so they give the missiles to 20 of these guys, and they're like, all right, go stand behind this rock and wait for the Zaku to show up. Like, I don't think the rock is going to help you, man.
No, but I mean, they did kind of try and dig in and stuff, but man, this is a bad showing for Zeon too, right? Because Barberry and his men get into position, right? They're waiting to ambush these Zakus that are going to come at them.
Yep.
And the first Zaku they see is chasing like a defenseless supply truck, and it destroys a supply truck.
It does. It's just like this little van. That's so terrible.
Yeah, and then the poor guy, I guess the driver or one of the passengers of the supply truck lives, and he tries to run out, and the Zaku doesn't even decide to use weapons against him. It decides to just slowly march after him and then squish him like a bug. That was pretty obscene.
That was bad.
All right,
yeah.
I might be Zeon, but man, come on. We have, it's beneath you to do that to infantry and defenseless trucks.
Or yeah, I mean, you don't even really have to kill him. What's he gonna do?
Yeah, he has no weapons.
Just let him run away. I mean, that's just killing for the sake of killing, right?
Right, yeah. And, oh, man, was it me or did it take a lot of prep to get 3 missiles ready to fire at the Zaku?
It did, yeah. The Reginas don't seem like a quick weapon, except maybe when Barberry uses it at the end. And one thing I did like in pretty much all these episodes, they're very specific with the number of units involved. And I like that because it's not just like an endless stream of grunts. There's not just like an endless stream of Zakus and Jims just taking each other out. Here it was like, okay, there are 3 Zakus. Yeah. And we have 4 squads on Barberry's side. And so that way in your mind, you're about to see a very well thought out fight and the numbers involved. Pretty much every episode of MS IGLOO has been like that. So whoever's writing, I like that style.
Yeah. But
yeah, so Barberry has prepped his 4 squads in very specific positions, right? Except for one squad who did something stupid. The ones that climbed the tower. They're like, hey, captain, or whatever Barberry is. Hey, lieutenant. And he looks over, and these idiots climb themselves up onto a tower, which might sound great from a first shot perspective. Yeah,
if you're fighting infantry.
Yeah, but what do you do if you miss your first shot against Zaku, and now he knows you're on the tower and you can't get down? You are instantly dead. I
mean, yeah. And that's exactly what happened because even though Barberry held back on firing until, after that infantry guy, the Federation soldiers sadly got crushed just so Barberry could actually get the Zaku in range. When he does give the order to fire, that tower's the first thing the Zaku goes for because the Zaku does not go down in the first hit.
No.
I think it dodges all the hits.
Yeah, I mean, they try their best, though. They shoot, 3 or 4 rockets at once? And I think
Yeah.
only 2 of them hit, right? But they were aiming at, the knees, the mono eye, and the backpack, I think. So I really liked that strategy, right? They were really trying to break it down.
Yeah. I think they miss initially, but they do eventually get a hit, and the Zaku goes down.
Yeah, but his buddy comes riding over the ridge, though.
A second Zaku was really close, and it wastes no time realizing there's, a unit with missiles in the area, so it just opens fire on the tree line, trying to hit the infantry because, to Barberry's credit, digging in really made a difference because the Zaku really doesn't know exactly where people are.
Right.
It knows where the tower is, though, and it goes over to the tower and takes out a Heat Hawk and just smashes it.
Oh, the Heat Hawk, that was brutal.
I think that was a bit overkill, though. As a Zaku, couldn't you just punch that thing?
One would think.
He was being dramatic. He wanted them to know. He wanted them to feel heat the moment they died.
Yeah. And then, so the second Zaku takes out our pals in the tower, which I think was Squad 4. At this point, Squads 2 and 3 have already been completely killed, I think, as part of the sort of indiscriminate firing. So now pretty much all that's left is Squad 1 or Barberry Squad. And I think at this point they've also taken a hit too.
Yeah.
But was it Lewis? He's the one that takes off after the Zaku, in a Jeep, right?
Yeah, I think they load their last missile on, or whatever missile they actually have in the tube. They put on a Jeep and decide to, head to the Zaku itself and start circling it to try to get a shot in the cockpit.
Turns out, though, those Zakus, as we've seen before in 8th MS team, are equipped with anti-personnel mines, which don't go well for Lewis.
No, poor Lewis and whoever else was in the Jeep with him, they just get turned into Swiss cheese.
Yeah, yeesh.
I guess they didn't know, right? Otherwise, they wouldn't get so close. It's early in the war.
Maybe they just realized that we're dead, we might as well try. I don't know.
He could be forgiven for thinking, okay, we're fast enough that if we go in circles around the Zaku, all it can really try to do is time a kick or a punch. So we'll have enough. We'll have a chance to get a shot. But he wasn't really counting on a cloud of shrapnel falling all around him and killing him instantly.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, poor Lewis goes down, which was a shame because he was a good character. I liked him. So now we're basically just down to Barberry himself.
Yeah.
And so he grabs a Regina. And so it's just him facing down one charging Zaku. And he catches a break. They're fighting in a quarry, which I believe they've mentioned a few times at this point in the story. And the floor breaks underneath the Zaku and it falls down. The only part sort of remaining is sort of the upper half, and Barberry can see the face. And so Barberry then just aims dead center and blows away the Zaku's face with that Regina, which was great cinematography. I thought that was a great shot. Did you enjoy that?
Yeah, it was pretty cool, but I don't think he killed the pilot, did he?
No, he just blew up the mono eye. Yeah. I guess we should say, even when these Reginas hit the Zakus, I don't feel like it's a big explosion.
No, I was trying to think, is it penetrating inside the armor, but we don't actually see an outward explosion? It was kind of hard to see what was happening. The few times they do get a hit, it's not, a huge fireball. The knee goes out.
Yeah, it's more of a disabling tactic.
Yeah. Barberry gets his shot, but he's the last man standing, Brian. Nobody's left alive in his unit.
Maybe for a few seconds.
And guess what comes after Barberry after that?
A third Zaku emerges, the third one that we heard about that has been missing from the fight. It emerges from beneath the ground, and who's on its shoulder? Our favorite character.
Our new favorite character, excuse me. Dagwin? No. Yes, the Angel of Death shows up again, taunting Barberry, and Barberry decides to pull a Tom Hanks from Saving Private Ryan, and he takes out his sidearm and points it at the, I wasn't really sure if he's pointing at the Zaku or the Angel of Death itself, and he fires away right before his death, or his implied death.
Yeah, I don't even think they show the Zaku shoot him, right? The episode just ends and it says, Barberry was KIA and he had total mobile suit kills of 13, which is pretty damn good for someone with a missile launcher, I gotta say.
Yeah, if he was in a mobile suit, that would have made him an ace.
Yeah, absolutely.
So concludes episode 1 of Gravity Front, and it's very clear that we will not be seeing Barberry again. The poor guy.
So at this point, Isaac, what did you think of Death? I still wasn't even sure if she was a hallucination, and was she gonna show up in the next episode? I thought maybe at this point I was all right, maybe we're good, maybe we're not, maybe Death's not coming back in this show.
Yeah, I thought Death would be more of a bit of a neutral, remorseful character, going around the battlefield and, saying, "Oh, I'm so sad that so many are dying. This is my job or whatever, something like that." But instead, Death is sort of a Loki type taunting personification, right? Like, she's very mischievous. This is an evil form of Death. Like, like you're going straight to hell, or there's no peace.
Yeah, I'd say as the episodes go on, she actually takes a more active role in the story.
Yeah, but I wasn't happy with her showing, and the only thing that was really interesting to me was seeing infantry versus mobile suit combat in episode 1. Other than that, I wasn't a fan of the characters too much, or much of the story itself.
Yeah, I found both Barberry, and then we did meet like the major, the commander, whatever. I don't even know his name. He was very abrasive, and I did not like him in any of the episodes. So was Barberry, frankly, because he's kind of a crazy guy.
Yeah, and actually, we see a character in this episode 1, that will appear in episode 2, and that's Yandell, the tank commander. He almost ran over Barberry. Remember when Barberry was with the infantry retreating? He was the tank commander in that tank that almost ran him over.
Oh, excellent. I did not catch that. I will say that some of the characters in this show look a little samey to me.
Yeah.
Sometimes maybe it's just the CG, but it's a little bit hard to tell them apart sometimes.
I actually think Death and the General look pretty similar. They both kind of have like feminine looking faces, right?
A little bit, yeah.
I mean, the General has a beard, but other than that, they're not too different.
I mean, Death is also wearing like a very gothic Final Fantasy X outfit.
Like armor that they got from World of Warcraft or something.
Since you mentioned Yandell, let's roll right into episode 2, which was called Kings of the Jungle Roll Out. So I wasn't quite sure if this was going to be a Transformers episode about lions, but
the Federation makes a deal with the Autobots to defend Earth.
Wait, they need all the help they can get based on that last battle.
We need the Allspark.
Episode 2 opens with a white Zaku, who we will eventually come to understand is the White Ogre.
The White Ogre.
And he's walking over a bunch of decimated Type 61 tanks, which are used by the Earth Federation. These are like, I don't know, how would you describe the Type 61 tanks, Isaac? I don't think they're very unique.
I disagree to an extent. I'll say this. This is maybe the first time we see a close-up look of the Type 61s. And they're kind of, compared to our tanks in, 2021, they're kind of super tanks. They have the double barrels that we all know. And they're also pretty large. But unfortunately, Brian, as one of the characters mentions, there's a bit of a staffing issue. So what normally would have been a crew of maybe, 4 to 6, it has to be a crew of 2 per tank.
Yeah, and our main character for this episode, Lieutenant Herman Yandell, he has lost his number 2. And so a new guy shows up, Sergeant Laban Surratt. And Yandell starts him off right away with a combat drill. He says, "Get in the tank, we'll do a combat drill." I guess against their teammates. And they're basically playing paintball, but with tanks. And Yandell just kind of schools them all.
Yeah, was anybody on Yandell's team? It seemed like it was him versus all the other tanks.
Agree. I didn't really notice any teammates.
I think Yandell also really pushed the tank to its limits, right? Because Surratt's kind of telling him a few times, we got to slow down. We're going to destroy our suspension or something. But it seemed like Yandell has maybe a custom tank or something, because he's way faster than everybody else.
He just doesn't abide by the manufacturer's guidance. So like you said, the Type 61s have a dual barrel. He shot 2 tanks with 1 shot from the dual barrel, which I thought was hilarious. And that's got to be embarrassing if you're the other tank pilots.
Right. They were like right next to each other. What were their leaders thinking?
I don't know. That's terrible tactics.
Yeah. So, it was cool. We got to see a little bit more propaganda in this video, right?
Yep.
It was Odessa stuff saying, we're going to push him back. And we see our favorite general again. He's got time to talk to Yandell, chew him out a bit. What kind of general has time to talk to like 1 tank pilot?
I don't know. I mean, I guess Yandell's like the best one though, right? I didn't really understand what their relationship was, because that part he does like chew him out a bit, but then Surratt basically goes to him and says, "Hey, Yandell's kind of crazy. All he wants to do is kill the White Ogre, and I don't think I can continue to serve with him." But Yandell turns out he's like standing right there, and then the commander guy or whatever he is, major, he's like, "Yeah, Yandell's kind of weird, but you know what? We need him for this operation. Get on board and deal with it."
Yeah, and the operation itself is to specifically go after a group of Zakus, and Yandell specifically wants to go after the White Ogre, so he sort of fakes that the tank isn't working too well. As a result, he's allowed to kind of stick back while, other tanks and other tank units go and fight some Zaku's. So he sticks back with Surat a bit, and they're talking, and Surat actually sees Death with Yandell.
Yeah, and that's when I was like, oh, Death is back. This isn't a one-episode thing.
Yeah, it was. I mean, Death is real in the UC. If this is canon, you can see Death. So I didn't like that at all. I thought it just got too weird. We kind of went off on a tangent. Now, Yandell's Mr. Death too, Mr. Death God. If you're around him, you're going to die. And Surat sees that. I don't know. I thought that was just so bizarre. But anyways, the White Ogre realizes that a worthy enemy is not where he's headed. So he decides to fake needing maintenance and repairs too. So he holds back.
Yeah, the White Ogre and Yandell seem to have a connection. A very Amuro Char kind of, I must fight this person. I mean, I guess in the beginning of the episode, we did see that Yandell has fought the White Ogre before. We eventually come to understand that the White Ogre blew up Yandell's house and his family, which I thought was a little confusing. I didn't really get the sense that they were in a residential area in that first fight. Maybe it occurred in a different fight or something, but a little strange. So anyway, Yandell hates the White Ogre. White Ogre, like Isaac said, just wants a worthy opponent, because I guess if you're a Zaku pilot, these Type 61s probably aren't the most challenging things. If you're just fighting Type 61s and infantry people all day, I don't know. Do you get bored?
Kind of fish in a barrel, right? It's like, a bunch of RC cars showed up while you're walking, and, they try fighting you when you just kind of walk around kicking them.
Yeah.
This is kind of a one-way relationship, though, right? Because Yandell knows about the White Ogre. He's obsessed with it. I'm not sure the White Ogre specifically knows the Type 61 that Yandell's in, or how much of a bond, hate relationship they have.
I agree. I mean, he just says, I feel that there's a worthy opponent here, but he doesn't necessarily know that he's the guy that he fought before. And like you said, all the Type 61s look the same. So
to him, they're all tanks. So he holds back, and then the White Ogre decides to attack a specific area. And of course, Yandell and his tank unit are there, Brian.
Yes. And before the battle started, we did find out that Yandell's plan, when he talked to the commander, was that he would leak fake intel to Zeon to draw the White Ogre in. And we will eventually find out what that was. But when the battle starts, they make it very clear that the White Ogre and team believe that there are 8 Type 61s. So that's 8 Type 61s versus the White Ogre and 2 other Zaku's. So it's 8 on 3 here. I'd still say the Zaku's are heavily favored to win this battle, Isaac.
Yeah, massively. And they go at it, and I don't know. Those Type 61s aren't doing good at the beginning.
No, 3 of them go down pretty much right away. So you're already down to 5 versus 3, and you weren't winning at 8 versus 3.
Did you catch that part where a Type 61 gets a shot on a Zaku, but it hits that Zaku's shoulder armor and bounces off?
I did not see that. Finally, it worked.
Yeah, I was going to say, okay, so now we know. Now we know that Zeon armor does work, but they engineered it against Federation Type 61s, not against GMs. So that explains the shoulder armor.
But then Yandell starts kind of kicking it into overdrive and giving some orders. So, we're down 3 tanks. So now we're down to 5v3. Another 2 do go down, which puts you at 3v3. But before they do that, Yandell says to light them up or something. And they light one Zaku on fire with some sort of incendiary round or napalm or something. And so that Zaku is he's not down, but he's sort of out of the fight for a few minutes. Before they can finish it off, another Zaku comes flanking around. So then Yandell gives the order to everyone to just flashbang him and not to look at the flashbangs, which is probably something you don't need to say if you tell someone to fire a flashbang, yeah. Right? I don't know.
In the heat of battle, it wouldn't hurt to say it.
Don't look at it. So this sort of blinds the Zaku, and then they are able to take down that Zaku by getting a direct hit onto that Zaku's mono eye. So now we're down to basically 3v2. Still not great odds. And in fact, we go down to 2v2 pretty much right away because one of the Zakus steps on a tank. That's a bad way to go.
Yeah, it crushed it.
Yandell employs a pretty cool tactic.
Yeah, brilliant tactic.
He just says, fire all the smoke. So they smoke out both the White Ogre and the remaining Zakus. which I thought was a cool visual, right? Because it was like sort of nighttime at this point, right? And the tanks are so small compared to the Zaku's.
Yeah, not only that, but like the smoke coverage, the tanks are like way below it, and the Zaku's essentially can't see below chest height at this point because there's so much smoke. So the tanks could be anywhere.
Yeah, they have no idea what's going on, so they're just firing away. The other Zaku, unfortunately, does kill the last non-Yandell tank, I'll call it. So now we're literally just 1v2 with Yandell versus the two Zaku's. Yandell and Surratt, right, I should say. And so Yandell does something cool. He's like, Surratt, climb on some wreckage and give me some, what does he say, some elevation?
Yeah, use it as a ramp. That was smart, yeah.
He climbs up on the wreckage, gets an angle, and they take out the non-white Ogre Zaku by shooting its cockpit, that was like a real kill shot compared to the last episode, right? Where like they hit the cockpit.
God, it was point blank essentially after they got on top of like the burning wreckage of one of their friends.
Thanks for the assist, pal.
Yeah, it's like, even in death you shall be useful to me, my friend.
So now that the two Zaku's are down and it's only Yandell left, we're down to 1v1. Yandell versus the White Ogre, which is everything Yandell wanted. And the smoke is dissipating now, and they search for each other, and they see each other, and they lock on and fire. And very quickly, the situation seems to have resolved itself, Isaac, because it appeared that Yandell's tank shots, missed, but the White Ogre's shots did not. And what we believe to be Yandell's tank is obliterated. But as the White Ogre is sort of gloating, he sticks his cannon in the wreckage of what you believe to be Yandell, and he's gloating. But then he gets shot in the back twice, and his backpack takes major damage, and he turns around and he's like, how is this possible? It was only supposed to be a certain amount of squadrons. It was supposed to be 8 tanks. And Yandell says, no, we brought a 9th tank today, a special composition just for this mission. That was the fake intel that Yandell must have leaked. He must have said, we will bring 8 tanks here. And so once the White Ogre destroyed 8 tanks, he thought he was done. But lo and behold, they had a 9th. I mean, it's great for Yandell that the move worked, but doesn't that just mean that whoever the extra guy was that they brought along that moved at the very end was a sacrifice, Isaac?
Not necessarily. He could have lived. If he was a better tank pilot. Brian, this is war. Everyone is a sacrifice.
So Yandell got his wish. He destroyed the White Ogre. He's gloating a bit, maybe celebrating a little bit too loud, because Surratt turns around and sees the Angel of Death above him, and you have to wonder at this point that the Angel of Death has probably come to collect on Yandell's soul. And I guess there was a Zeon infantry patrol just heading this way, maybe to back up the Zaku's, and they fire several RPGs into Yandell's tank, and he falls in, and then it explodes from the inside. Somehow Surratt lives. I guess, did he exit the tank before this, I guess?
Yeah. He was outside the tank looking up, and he was on the other side of the tank. So the Zeon anti-tank crew, they couldn't really see him.
Yeah.
So he was able to sneak away or just get behind enough wreckage that, it looked like the moment they took out Yandell, they were kind of ready to leave.
Yeah. I mean, there was nothing really left. It was a pretty barren, wasteland of tank parts in this point.
Yeah.
And then we get the little report at the end saying that Mr. Yandell is KIA with 7 MS kills in his career with his Type 61, which is still a lot for a tank, but still not as much as our friend Barberry from the first episode.
Man, I feel so bad for Yandell. I mean, he got what he wanted. Yeah, he took out the White Ogre, but at the same time, he didn't technically even die gloriously in battle. He was shot from behind when he thought he was safe. Very, very much mirroring the White Ogre's death. They really were bonded. Yeah,
that's a good point. I didn't even think of that.
Oh, his death looked painful too, because like the tank takes the hit in the back from the Zeon anti-tank missile. He screams at first, and then like parts of the tank blew up. And then you're like, oh, okay, maybe he'll be all right. And then like he screams again and falls all the way into the tank. So I'm guessing whatever he was standing on collapsed from an explosion. And then the little hatch where his head was at before, it just gushes fire. So you know he's gone.
Yeah, it looks like a volcano went off in his tank.
Yeah, so they hit the fuel or something. And
if there's anything I've learned from watching MS IGLOO is that tanks are dangerous, and you don't want to be a tank pilot.
No, you don't. Don't be a tank pilot. That's it for episode 2. Surratt lives, and Yandell's dead.
Did you like either Surat or Yandell? I mean, I guess I liked Yandell more than Barberry. I can't say I really liked Surat, though.
No, he was so bland. But Yandell had some panache. You know, he was a gung-ho tank pilot. He was ready for have like a glorious battle and take down the White Ogre that, you know, he was his mortal enemy. I was kind of curious about the White Ogre. Like, we never even saw what he looked like. We just saw the back of his head, which is something repeating, I guess, with Zeon as an enemy, since in episode 1 we didn't see the any of the pilots of the Zaku's. We saw like a silhouette. And that was it.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
We did learn his name. It was Captain Elmer Snell.
Yeah, interesting name.
Yeah, I wonder what his other exploits were.
Killing lots of Type 61s. That's exactly what he was good at.
Yeah, I mean, this was before mobile suits, so it's not like he was ever in combat against gyms or anything.
So ends episode 2. The real winner is death.
Again, so 2-0 for death here. Episode 3, Odessa, Storm of Steel. Now, I gotta say, Isaac, this was the best episode of the 3.
Yeah.
I really liked this one, barring maybe the death parts. But overall, I think this was the strongest one.
Yeah. It's also the only one with mobile suit versus mobile suit combat. And a woman as the main character.
Yeah, we don't get that very often. But I also feel like it just opens pretty strong, right? We open in a mobile suit battle. Right away, you see that some time has passed because we see some ground GMs, which we first saw in 8th MS Team, at least in animated form. I forget who's giving the message, but they're basically saying, look, General Revel is pushing forward hard to kind of retake Europe, to make up for all the humiliation that the Federation forces have been, taking over the last several months on Earth. Did you see the call out in the first episode? Not quite a name drop, but there was a Gao, and it was taken out by 2 core fighters, Isaac.
Every time I see those gals get shot out of the sky, I just think what paper tigers they are. As big as they are, they go down even harder.
Yeah, it took like a little missile to the wing, and it was like, we're done here. Just
it like does a barrel roll once that wing catches on fire.
They remind me of like the spruce goose. So big, but pretty useless.
Yeah, and it has to like fly low to the water, right? And all because it was so poorly engineered.
If it flies at all. But those ground GMs are doing pretty well. They're marching back, they're pushing back against the Zaku's. But then they start getting pounded pretty hard from long range by a Zeon tank thing, which I don't think we've seen before. I could be wrong, but it's called the Dobday. Or the Dabuday. I don't remember when the last time we saw a Dobday. Is that what Makuve had in the original?
Yeah, I think so. For all the good it did. For all the good it worked at Odessa.
Yeah. But we get some reinforcements because 3 Guntanks arrive. And these are Guntanks that look a little different than the Guntanks we've seen before.
Yeah, they're headless.
Yeah, it's a little creepy, isn't it?
Yeah, they look more like tanks that just have a pilot section with arms that can move up and down.
Yeah. These 3 Guntanks are led by a woman named Arleen Nazan.
They're not exactly a volunteer corps of pilots, are they, Brian?
No, Arleen and her squadron, it turns out they are convicts who are doing this to get clemency on their sentences.
Do we find out what the other pilots did to end up in their position? I don't think we do, right?
I don't think we do, though I got the impression that they were part of Arleen's gun tank program, but I'm not positive. Because they were like really in it with her. Like they were super excited to also destroy the Dobday or the Dabuday. I mean, they would be motivated to do the operation, but maybe not to kill themselves.
Yeah, that really explains why they did so well in the cockpit.
I thought these gun tanks were great, Isaac. They were cool. What did you think?
I think they look hideous, but they were beasts on the battlefield. Their speed reminded me of the Hildorf. They were just zipping around, blowing things away.
Yes. I want to see this gun tank fight the Hildorf.
Oh, wow. That's a coin toss. Yeah, 3 versus the Hildorf, I think. I know, I'll give it to the Hildorf.
Oh, I would say the Hildorf's probably still better, but these gun tanks were no laughing matter. They were zipping around those Zaku's like nothing.
She has to lead them, essentially, against a group of Zaku's that are guarding Makuve at his mining outpost, the last part of Odessa that hasn't been conquered?
Pretty much. I mean, the battle in this episode is pretty much the Battle of Odessa, I guess, and the team we're following, the 44th, is they're trying to take a particular hill, which is Hill 144. I like that every hill is named. The Zeon force is trap the GMs in this vicious smoke trench thing.
Yeah, I don't get how they had no idea there would be like a trench in front of them, and then they just ran headlong into it, and like it was lined with dynamite or some explosives.
Yeah, they blew up the gyms. And then, did you enjoy that part too, where the one gym that survived tried to get out of the trench, but then the Zeon infantry like sped by on their like, you know, Zeon equivalent of a speeder bike and put mines on its head and then ran away and blew it up. I thought that was great.
Yeah, now we finally know what those speeder bikes we saw in episode 1 were for.
But so the commander's like, hey, you know, go back up the gyms, Arleen. And then I really liked this part because the guys on her team were like, how do we back up? We've always had to go in first. We're not sure how to back anyone up. So they just charge in. And I just started cracking up. I was like, oh, I like these guys. They've got some style.
Yeah, and this whole time though, Arleen is she's kind of having some flashbacks, right, Brian? She's not completely on the battlefield. Her mind's thinking of the past.
She is. She's holding this photo of some blonde-haired guy. I assumed it was her, you know, lover or ex-boyfriend or husband or something. Doesn't seem like they're together anymore, though. The only other thing we know about their past is that Arleen said that these Guntanks were an older design. The specs were stolen and presumably given to Zeon, and then development was deliberately shut down.
That explains why they don't look like normal Guntanks, and exactly why she's been chosen to pilot them along with what you assume is her science crew or her technical assistants or whatever. So that's why they're there in the fight against what's left of Zeon during Operation Odessa.
And this is also the same time when the Guntanks reveal that they have like a driving mode, which apparently is called the assault mode, but I like driving mode better. And they were so fast, Isaac.
Yeah, like Hildor fast. And they're just blowing away Zaku's, and they don't really seem to pay much mind to infantry, or at least I thought they weren't, until a few infantry shot at her. So she like uses one of her arms into it's a flamethrower. One of her arms is a flamethrower, and she just roasts a bunch of Zeon infantry alive.
Hey, she said, I have no problem with you, and then yeah, she just like napalmed them or whatever that thing was. It was pretty brutal.
I mean, I don't know what they were thinking, using a machine gun against a gun tank, but that's what you get.
And yeah, you're right. These things can spin and like slide. It's kind of like Mario Kart, you know, where the Zaku has to like take a step to the side and turn around. She can just kind of like drift around in the desert, which is pretty cool.
And they also have like mines. I thought that was really cool. Like as much as they're speeding around and some Zakus are kind of chasing after them sometimes, they can drop a mine behind them, and the Zakus are kind of dumb enough, I guess, to step on the mine or get close enough to it that it detonates and kills the Zaku.
Oh yeah, that was really neat. Along those same lines, I did like how all the equipment they were using would like after they had used it, they would detach it so they could go faster.
Yeah. Speaking of go faster, or at least go, guess who's there actually at the battle? It's our best friend, General Arrogance. He's actually in the tank.
Yeah, he's in the hover truck.
Yeah, he's helping out.
It's the same hover truck that's in 8th MS team, or the same model, not the same one, obviously.
Yeah,
but
yeah. Cool callback.
Did you see the other callback to 8th MS team in this episode?
No, what?
Oh, okay.
Elidor's song?
I think it was during the initial charge. After they finish off some Zaku's, a Goof Custom comes running out.
Ooh, wow.
The same model that Norris Packard pilots in 8th MS team. And it goes down in about 3 seconds.
Wow.
So it was a pretty poor showing on the Goof Customs part and for that pilot. Now, he did make a dumb move. He came charging straight out. A Goof is not a ranged unit. He was in the middle of a desert. He just starts shooting against a long-range unit. So what do? They shoot him in the chest. But that was a terrible showing. This was a mistake. The Goof Custom is a great suit. They should not have sullied the memory of the Goof Custom with this poor showing.
In the Goof's defense, it clearly wasn't being piloted by Norris Packard.
Oh, definitely not. Definitely not.
If Norris was there, he would have killed that army single-handedly.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's right. But I was pumped to see it show up, and then it immediately died, and I was like, okay, I'm embarrassed.
I was pumped to see the Doms, but they didn't do well at all.
No. The one Dom at least cut off her cannons.
Yeah, but then the Dom got killed. I believe this is also the point where she closes into the Daboob. Or Dabuday.
Dabuday, whatever it's called.
Yeah. Zeon land ship. So she's closed in to the Zeon land ship. The Zeon forces are kind of routed or destroyed. And off in the distance, oh my God, Brian, There's another land ship.
There's two. They thought there was only one of these things, and turns out there's two. She has a moment of crisis here.
Yeah, she's damaged one.
At this point, we've come to find out that her boyfriend in that photo is the one that stole the plans and leaked the plans to Zeon, and then he defected. So it turns out her and her team are really pissed at this dude, and that's why they are on this mission to kind of destroy this Zeon land ship. And as you said, they've already damaged the one that they thought was holding the guy. And the way they damage it, Isaac, is pretty gnarly. So there were 3 Guntanks. One of them got his tread messed up by a Zaku. But instead of just staying there, he grabbed the Zaku and self-destructed. And that's where we learned that they've brought along a whole bunch of explosives on board, specifically so they can kamikaze into this land ship. That's a bold plan.
Yeah, I mean, there's kamikazes happening all around because some of the Zakus were kamikaze Zakus, if you remember.
Yeah, that's true.
So things got a little too kamikaze here in the story for me. I thought this was all kind of reckless. We've never heard of kamikaze Zakus. That's a bit much. And this whole kind of back and forth exposition with her having flashbacks of talking to, at the court-martial trial about how, you leaked information to your boyfriend and he went off to Zeon with the Guntank information. What the heck I was thinking this whole time, what is Zeon going to do with Guntank information? The Zaku is superior to the Guntank. Know?
I don't know. These Zakus aren't faring too well against these Guntanks.
That's true. You got me there. But as we find out, Brian, this was a case of plans within plans, wheels within wheels.
Yes, and maybe information kept confidential that maybe shouldn't have been.
Nope.
Yeah. So the second Guntank pilot has damaged the land ship by self-destructing on it. And so now we have Arleen trying to decide whether she finishes off the damaged one or whether she goes after the new one. And as she's sitting up on this hill deciding, she gets a visit, Isaac.
It's Death. Death shows up again with her incredible hair. And she says, I'm here, and you're going to freak out because you never thought you'd see Death before, did you? So Arleen's a bit stunned, to say the least. She's having a moment as she sees Death on the battlefield.
And Death tells her to attack the new one if she trusts Death.
Hi, I'm the Angel of Death. Let me give you some advice.
Do you trust me? The guy you want is in that one over there. Choose that one.
Let me help you. I have no ulterior motives.
So in the heat of the moment, Arleen maybe foolishly takes Death's advice, and she charges towards the new one. But she mows through 3 Magella attack tanks. She makes some Zakus look a little foolish, dispatches some Doms, and then she runs over a Zaku, which I thought was hilarious. So it's just down to her and the land ship now. And so they're firing at her. She's firing at them. She takes some bad damage, what I would consider to be fatal mobile suit damage, right? Her suit's not going to work very much longer. But she does end up like right in front of it. So right within the explosion range. And at this point, the land ship knows what she's about to do because they saw it happen on the other one. And they basically just say, hey, throw it in reverse. Don't run over her. Which maybe a little late at that point, right?
Yeah, and also, they had a long time to reverse, but they don't seem to be moving at all. Do the gears in that land ship need a while to sort of switch and relocate before they can actually move the treads backwards? I know it's a big ship, but
Maybe they were figuring that they would have been within the blast radius anyway. I don't know, but I agree. They were kind of just sitting there. Or maybe the ships don't go in reverse very often.
Or they've been damaged. I don't know. They have to figure it out. But anyways, they said go in reverse, but they stood still.
Instead of reversing, Arleen gets a call.
She gets a special message.
Yeah, from her. Did we even ever learn his name? I mean, I know you can look up his name on the wiki, but did they ever say it in the episode?
It was Steamy McTraitor.
Steamy McTraitor.
Yeah. It was Honeypot Joe. Honeypot Joe is back at it again. He's here to make you give up your information and spread your legs.
And so he basically comes on the comm and says, hey, Arleen, how's it going? I didn't know you were still alive. I didn't mean to betray you, and I still love you. And I was like, really, pal?
Yeah, what is he doing here? My mind was trying to piece this story together, thinking maybe I missed something. I'm watching a sub, and then the revelation happens at that moment, right? Or does it happen when she bites the bullet?
She's about to self-destruct, and then Death comes back, and says, "Oh, Arleen, if you do that, you're going to regret it." But then in my mind, I was like, well, you were the one that told her to attack this one. She could have went and attacked the other one, but you told her to come over here. And then that's when Honeypot Joe calls and says, "I love you." Did you believe him at that point?
Yes, and I'll explain why. Because that's the only way the story makes sense. Because didn't General Arrogance later on get on the radio or something and say, or maybe it was Death that explained, the reason you were told not to attack that new one is because Honeypot Joe is a double agent. He made Zeon trust him by giving them Guntank information, which is next to useless anyways. And now he's been feeding the Federation information about all of Odessa this whole time from inside a Zeon land base. So that is why Odessa, at least partially, went so well in this area at least. They were getting information from Zeon by someone Zeon trusted.
Yeah, Death tells her that after she says screw it and hits the self-destruct anyway. She was told by General Jerk or Commander Jerk, whatever his name is, to just not attack that Zeon land ship, which was very strange, right? Very strange order.
I mean, he should have explicitly said, we have an agent in there or something, But then again, maybe Zeon's listening too. Who knows? And he couldn't really get in specifics.
But regardless, Arleen doesn't listen, blows herself up, and then she wakes up away from the explosion. And at this point, you're wondering, how the heck did she survive? And the answer is she didn't. The camera pans out. Death is right next to her. And Death just says, "You are a dying flicker of light." And then that's when she reveals the big reveal that Isaac just outlined. Arleen is kind of just shocked and in awe. The ending was very weird, I thought, Isaac. Death just says, "Let me bring you two together in exchange for your soul." And then she kind of just walks towards her, and that's it. The episode ends.
Yeah, we don't even get what we've got in the last two episodes, the final black and white image of the character and then like their kill count, because she blew everybody out of the water.
Oh, she's ace pilot for sure.
Yeah,
those things were great.
She must be approaching 50 kills or more.
Yeah, that was great.
But we didn't get that. She deserved it and she earned it. She didn't get that. And God, she was in that self-destruct mode for like 30 seconds. The Zeon land ship was right over her, didn't bother reversing. In 30 seconds, they could have gotten well clear of the blast.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Or at least gotten some people out of the ship to go shoot her or something.
Yeah, what was going on in that Zeon land ship when, like, the double agent, when Honeypot Joe grabbed, like, the communications, microphone or whatever, radio, and, like, started saying this stuff about how much he loves the Guntank pilot? Like, wouldn't everybody on that land ship nearby, the captain or the crew, just kind of look at him sideways and maybe reach for their sidearms?
Yeah, I mean, at this point, he would have been put in jail at the very least, right, after this? I mean, he doesn't really have a future after that conversation, does he?
No, he'd have to hope the Federation got to him on that land ship, or if their commander surrendered, maybe he was the commander, who knows? And then, they essentially take him back and they're like, "Oh yeah, good job, thanks. We'll give you a medal." Yeah, but critical information was kept from Arleen.
Yeah, for maybe no real good reason. I mean, maybe you don't have to tell her before the mission, but like you said, when the jerky guy called on and told her not to fire on that one, he maybe needs to give a little more context.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. Okay. Would the lie only have worked if Arleen and her crew became prisoners, if they did get court-martialed? If that didn't happen and the guy just ran off to Zeon with intel on the Guntank, would Zeon have somehow known? Like, oh, the science crew, they clearly are still walking around free, so your information's useless. You're a double agent. We're going to kill you. How close of an eye on the science crew is Zeon keeping, where they had to go into jail? They had to be kept in the dark.
Agree. I mean, and you still could have done it. I mean, we do this in real life, right? I mean, you still could have sent them to jail, but then when they get to jail, you could have just taken them out of jail and had some employees stay in jail in their place and give them new identities. I mean, we have a witness protection program in the real world. I don't see why those particular people had to, like, legitimately take the fall.
Yeah, so out of the 3 episodes, I say this one sticks the landing the least. I really wanted a sense of closure at the end, a better ending, but we didn't get that. Episode 2, we have sort of a revenge tale, enemy versus enemy. Episode 1, we sort of have a man haunted by death, trying to take down a giant to him, a group of giants to him. 3, they sort of try to do sort of a half love revenge story, lover's quarrel story. I don't know. The Guntank scenes were great, but this whole sort of half done, half baked idea with the double agent and the information, and she was in prison, but she didn't know. That was all just, I thought it was a bit of a hot mess.
Yeah, I think I would agree. I think the endings for the first 2 are more definitive and maybe more satisfying, but I think the overall episode, I think I still like 3 the best in terms of just the action and
best combat for sure.
Pacing. It kept me more attentive, I think, in the 3rd episode than the others. But yeah, I agree. The ending of the 3rd was a little kind of like, what?
Yeah, the whole story and reasoning for the actual, characters' motivation, all that doesn't really hold up. But I mean, wow, this was glorious Guntank battle. Probably the best Guntank performance we ever see in the series.
Yeah, it'll make you a fan of the Guntank, right?
Yeah, with this version of it.
Yeah, this particular Guntank. Right?
Yeah, this is like on the short list of cases of like the designer of the mobile suit or the scientists, technicians that work on it. They're actually way better at it than regular pilots.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, who knows how they customized it, but man, they were savages on the battlefield, and like you said in the beginning, they don't even do like evasive tactics or anything. They like make a beeline for the Zaku's.
Like, oh, we'll just go get them. It's fine.
And the useless Zaku's, they don't even take them in the initial battle, right? Like they're heading straight for them. The Zaku's didn't get like 1 kill or 1 hit.
It was a pretty rough day for the Zaku's.
Actually, well, in the Zaku's defense, this is the later part of Odessa, so maybe they're tired and they might be focusing on like those ground GMs or ground tanks or something. And
yeah, and the Zaku's outdated at this point, I'd say. But
yeah. They, I mean, if they dealt with gun tanks before, since we're seeing, ground GMs walking around, maybe they had a low opinion of these gun tanks and they thought, oh, these are just the same, ones we destroyed the other day. We should focus fire on the ground GMs.
Yeah.
But nope, Arleen's leading them, and those are headless horseman gun tanks. So prepare for death.
Yeah, she was a beast. Definitely one of the better pilots we've seen.
Yeah, my God, like, step it up. Come on. Get some more stories with female pilots.
Her whole team fought in a way that reminded me of Amuro. They fought like people were just in their way, like just obstacles, and they just kind of dismantled them.
Brian, are you saying Arleen might be a new type?
Oh, I mean, all these people, they are seeing death. Maybe there's a connection there. I don't know.
I mean, hey, Amuro saw the dead. He saw Lala.
Yeah.
Maybe all these characters have some new type abilities. That's why they're seeing death.
That would have been a better way to explain it.
Yeah, and also a better way to explain their insane performance against impossible odds.
Yes.
Like, oh, Barberry, he was a new type, Who else could get that shot?
Do you think though there's like a after death club with the new types where like Amro's playing poker with Char and then like Barberry shows up and they're like, oh god, this guy, like, does he have to be a new type? Do we have to let him play?
And you see there clearly seems to be some type of life after death to an extent, right? Because we could see Lala. So I'm not sure if that means your actual sentience goes on after death or if it means just a vague memory of you's left. That's why Char, for all his experience and skills, he can't exactly have conversations with Lala anytime he wants, right? Or same with Amuro. They just kind of she'll pop up when she wants to pop up.
Right. And that's it, Isaac. We've now reached the end of MS IGLOO. So this third one was from 2008. That was the last one. They've not done one since. I haven't heard any news of any further ones coming out.
From 2008, feels like 2000.
Yeah, that CG doesn't age great. So what's your rating on MS IGLOO 2, Isaac?
Oh boy. MS IGLOO 2. For a number of reasons, I'll list them right now. Weaker characters, not having the same characters throughout all 3 episodes. Some bizarre concepts with the personification of death, the angel of death, the death god. I'll give this 2.5 out of 5 Haros. If you enjoyed IGLOO and you'd like to see some interesting perspectives from the Federation side about the war that's not involving the Gundam, check it out. But if not, it's something you can skip. Brian, what's your rating?
I agree. I think the first 2 were a little bit better than MS IGLOO 2. I agree the characters in this one maybe weren't as memorable, even though I did like Arleen. I think the overall story wasn't as satisfying. And I can't tell if that's just because we didn't follow the same characters or just because the sort of subject of the day maybe wasn't as intriguing as the first 6 episodes. So I think my rating would be, on my 10 scale, probably a 6.5 for this one. I still recommend it if you're a Gundam fan. I still think it's got some good additions to the lore, particularly with the last one for Odessa. But maybe this one just feels like a disappointment, Isaac, because the other 6 episodes were so good.
Yeah, it almost doesn't even feel like it should be part of MS IGLOO. It should have been called, I don't know, MS
Death.
Gundam Federation Stories or something. I don't know. Gundam Death on Earth. Who knows? But yeah, overall, removing death from the story would have made it better, I felt. Not great.
I agree. I think I would have went up to 7.5 if death wasn't here and you just used something else to accomplish that.
So weird. It's the same crew that gave us that great story with the Zeon mobile development team, and then we end up over here with like death haunting 3 characters. They're not even that closely related in their story. Just bizarre overall.
If you're not like a big Universal Century fan, this probably isn't something that you would watch.
Yeah, just, I don't know, start 0083 again or something.
But overall, I think MS IGLOO was an enjoyable ride, and I'm really happy we watched it.
Yeah, me too. I really enjoyed the whole story with Zeon. This Federation part didn't stick the landing, but it's a really good series overall.
So watch it.
Yeah, see the first parts of MS IGLOO. This third part, Gravity Front, you can skip it. If you want to see it, go for it. Other than that, though, a great time with a Zeon side story.
Indeed. All right, everybody, that's it for us today. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe.
And remember, before you go to sleep, stand next to your bed, get on your knees, put your hands together, look up at the ceiling, and hail Zeon.
Good night, everybody.